Good afternoon, my dear friends. Thank you for joining us for one more session of Kardec After Lunch, hosted by Kardec Radio. And if you allow me, let me make some announcements. Uh, Please feel free to download the app for Kardec Radio and listen to Kardec Radio programs and podcasts. Feel free to send questions to Kardec Radio's Twitter account. And remember that all of this work is done by volunteers, but there are costs associated with web and app hosting, along with broadcast and publishing. So if you're able to, please be kind and donate so this work of love may continue for many years to come. God bless. I do also like to talk a little bit about a couple other study resources that you may or may not be aware of. And this one right here is another initiative of spiritismstudy.org and is a study aid meant to be used by study groups in the study of the Spirits book. If you'd like to know more about it, those are free of charge. And please just send us a message and we'll talk about a sponsorship of your study group exclusively in English. Another resource that was recently published by the United States Spiritist Federation is this graphic novel, Kardec and the Spirits. And this is the first volume, but it takes the graphic novel approach and it combines a bit of the biography of Kardec with lessons or questions from the Spirits book. And I found it very, very informative and a very nice addition to our or collection of resources that we can use to approach different age groups in the teaching of Spiritism. But as it is customary, our weekly program on Kardec Radio, we're going to be reading from the Medium's book. And it's a reading and commentary, so feel free to interact with us through our messages. If you would not like your comments or suggestion to be visible, to be public, feel free to send us, drop us a message directly afterwards. So if you happen to have this specific edition of the book, you can open up on page 76. We are reading in chapter 4, the theories behind, theories that were devised to explain the phenomena that were happening during the middle of the 19th century in Europe. Thank you, Gadio Medeiros and Armin Henman Jr. for your support. I appreciate it. So, item number 47, the optimistic theory. Alongside the theories that only see spirit phenomena as being the work of demons, there are others that see them only as the work of good spirits. Such theories start from the principle that, being released from matter, the soul is now free of any kind of veil and must therefore be possessed of supreme knowledge and wisdom. However, this blind confidence in the absolute superiority of the beings of the invisible world has been a source of numerous deceptions for many people. At their own expense, they have had to learn to distrust certain spirits, just as they have learned to distrust certain individuals. So, although it's a very short paragraph, it's very important for us to pay attention to this. His spirits are nothing else than the spirits of those we used to know, not all of them, of course, we can't know everybody, but those who were alive in body, and now the spirits outside of the body, right? So, if the person, whoever he or she may be, was not of a high level of intellect or morality in life, with the transition, to death, the transition to the spiritual world, he or she will not become enlightened. He or she will not gain the recompense of the efforts that he or she did not accrue, right? Um, there is some modification in our perception, in our insight after the period of confusion dissipates. But that is more in regards to basically what we have the ability or have access to our previous lives or previous memories and the expectations that were put on us for our most recent incarnation. So, but by no means, just because a person is now discarnate, or sorry, the spirit is discarnate from the body, he or she has become a scholar or a wise, or sorry, a wise person or a sage. So, just as we will not trust everyone we meet in the street for the first time, let's say, we also have to be careful when receiving message from spirits who we cannot ascertain um, their identity by means of um, certifiable facts or personal known truths about that spirit, right? Kardec and the spirits themselves constantly reminds us that we have, or we should be wise to take every message from spirits, either incarnate or discarnate, with a healthy level of skepticism. And I say again, a healthy level of skepticism. Number 48, the uni-spirit or mono-spirit theory. A variety of the optimistic theory is the belief that there is one soul spirit who communicates with humans, and that this spirit is Christ, the protector of the earth. However, when communications are of the lowest triviality, of a revolting grossness, full of malevolence and malice, it will be impious and profane to suppose that they could have emanated from the spirit of goodness par excellence, right? That would make no sense. And believe me, just as it happened during those times, nowadays, um, messages from the spirits could be of various natures, various different topics, and the spirits who communicate themselves, they could also be of very different um, degrees of elevation or advancement. Continue. If those who believe in this theory have received only impeccable communications, we could possibly accept their illusion. But most of them declare that they have received extremely evil communications. Trying to explain them away as a test to which the spirit of goodness has submitted them by dictating absurdities to them makes no sense, really. Thus, while some attribute all communications to the devil, who is able to make good statements in order to tempt them, others believe that Jesus is the only one who manifests himself, but that he can make evil statements in order to test them. So, two theories of exclusivity have come up during that time. One attributed all communications to the devil, and the other attributed all communications to Jesus. However, it was easily verifiable that there have been communications of both extremes of morality or intellect, or so how could you use any of those extremes to explain the phenomena in all its nuances? You can't. But Kardec thinks and it is important to expose those different theories so we can use our intellect to gauge their validity, and so must be. Continue. What shall decide between these two very diverse opinions? Common sense and experience. That's what we should develop and employ. We cite experience because it is impossible for those who adopt such exclusive ideas to have sufficiently verified everything. Sorry. Thank you also to Andrea Mena Barreto and Glaucia Barbosa McAfee. I apologize if I have mispronounced any names. Um, Continue. When we confront them with cases of identification that attest to the presence of relatives, friends, or acquaintances through written, visual, or other means of communication, they respond that it is always the same spirit, the devil, according to some, or Christ, according to others, who assumes all forms. But they give no reason as to why other spirits cannot communicate, or why the spirit of truth would come to fool us under false pretenses, or false appearances, in order to deceive a poor mother by pretending to be the child whom she is mourning. Right? Reason refuses to admit that the holiest of all spirits will come to put on such a dark comedy act. Right? That does not make any sense. Furthermore, doesn't denying the possibility of any other form of communication take from Spiritism its kindest characteristic, the consoling of the afflicted? Right? It would make no sense. And that is indeed part of the consolation, the promised consolation. Thank you also, Ivana Santos, for your support. Um, we would simply state that such a theory is irrational and cannot endure a serious examination. Now, he actually gave perhaps three times as many lines on this theory as the other one, which is the optimistic. But as I mentioned before, there are many parts of the written doctrine, the basic books, who are perhaps commonly skipped or not studied, and they are very important for um, our development. Um, I mentioned perhaps, for example, many people choose to skip the whole introduction of the Spirit's book and start right at the questions, on question one normally. And I think it's such a mistake. You should study the introduction. The introduction is very important. And I always recommend to try to develop your personal program to follow some rational sequence. Um, in dealing with the doctrine, of course, I recommend the ordering was written. However, you can, if you so desire, just start with what is Spiritism, which was actually written after the Spirit's book. Um, but it is your study, so it's your responsibility to develop. As one of the initiatives of Spiritism study, we have developed a system, and we have some volunteers who dedicate their time and knowledge to assist others who would like to start or enhance their Spiritism studies. All of it is free of charge. We are accepting students and tutors to fill those positions. Um, and of course, consider doing that as a challenge to yourself and to complement the studies who are done either online, passively, or actively at a Spiritist society if you have one nearby. But until next time, I thank all of you for your support, for your time, and don't forget to assist Kardec Radio in their endeavor to continue this mission of spreading the consolation to the whole world. Until next time, Godspeed to all.